In the annals of Japanese history, two warrior classes emerged that would captivate imaginations for centuries. One fought in daylight, bound by honor and code. The other struck from darkness, using deception as their greatest weapon. Samurai versus ninja, steel versus shadow. But the truth is far more complex and infinitely more fascinating than any legend. To understand the rivalry between ninja and samurai, we must first understand the world that created them. Medieval Japan was a fractured realm of competing warlords, treacherous alliances, and endless warfare. The period from the 12th to the 17th century saw Japan torn apart by civil war, where survival demanded not just strength, but strategy, cunning, and adaptability. The samurai emerged first, in the 8th century, as mounted warriors serving the imperial court and powerful landowners. By the 12th century, they had become the dominant military class. The word samurai comes from the Japanese verb saburao, meaning to serve, and service was their defining characteristic. What people often misunderstand is that samurai weren't just warriors. They were administrators, poets, philosophers, and politicians. They were the ruling class of Japan for nearly 700 years. Their martial prowess was just one aspect of a much more complex social role. The samurai lived by Bushido, the way of the warrior. This unwritten code emphasized loyalty, honor, courage, and self-discipline. To die in service of one's lord was the highest honor. Failure meant disgrace, often resolved through seppuku, ritual suicide. Everything about the samurai was public, ceremonial, codified. But in the mountain provinces of Iga and Koga, far from the imperial courts and samurai strongholds, a different kind of warrior was taking shape. They had no fancy title at first. They were simply called shinobi, or shinobi no mono, those who endure, those who act in stealth. History would come to know them as ninja. Unlike the samurai, who proudly displayed their lineage and achievements, the ninja emerged from peasant communities, minor samurai families, and warrior monks who had learned that survival in Japan's brutal power struggles required different tactics. If the samurai represented the sun, brilliant and undeniable, the ninja were the moon, mysterious and ever-changing. The ninja clans developed in regions where central authority was weak. These were mountain communities that needed to defend themselves against larger, better-equipped samurai armies. They couldn't win through conventional warfare, so they innovated. They developed espionage, assassination, sabotage, guerrilla tactics, what we would today call asymmetric warfare. By the 15th century, the ninja clans of Iga and Koga had become legendary. They operated in the shadows of Japanese society, their skills passed down through families in strict secrecy. While samurai studied the art of open combat, ninja studied ninjutsu, the art of stealth and deception. Their training was comprehensive and brutal. To understand the fundamental difference between ninja and samurai, look at how they trained. A samurai boy from a warrior family began his education around age 7. He learned horseback riding, archery, sword fighting with the katana and wakizashi, spear work, and the etiquette expected of the warrior class. The katana became the soul of the samurai. Master swordsmiths like Masamune, who worked in the late 13th and early 14th centuries, created blades of such perfection that they were considered sacred objects. Masamune's swords were said to be works of spiritual purity, capable of cutting through armor as if it were paper. The samurai sword technique wasn't about wild swinging. Every movement was calculated, efficient, deadly. A master samurai could draw his sword and cut down an opponent in a single fluid motion. This is Iaido. The sword goes from sheath to strike in under a second. But the samurai's training went beyond physical combat. They studied calligraphy, poetry, and tea ceremony. Many famous samurai were accomplished artists. Miyamoto Musashi, perhaps the greatest swordsman in Japanese history, was also a celebrated painter and philosopher. Born in 1584, Musashi fought his first duel at age 13 and went on to win over 60 duels without a single defeat. He developed a two-sword fighting style called Niten Ichiryu, but his greatest contribution might be The Book of Five Rings, written in 1645, a treatise on strategy, tactics, and philosophy that's still studied worldwide today. Musashi represents the ideal samurai paradox. He was a killing machine who sought enlightenment through combat, but also a sensitive artist who saw beauty in simplicity. He wrote, "There is nothing outside of yourself that can ever enable you to get better, stronger, richer, quicker, or smarter. Everything is within." While Musashi was perfecting the art of honorable combat, ninja were perfecting something entirely different. A ninja's training began even younger and was far more diverse. They learned 18 skills called the Ninja Juhake. These included espionage, disguise, escape and concealment, archery, sword fighting, staff combat, chain and sickle weapons, explosives, geography, and even meteorology. A ninja needed to blend in anywhere, from a peasant farmer to a traveling monk to a court entertainer. Forget the black pajamas you see in movies. Real ninja rarely wore those. They dressed as whoever they needed to be. Their greatest weapon wasn't the sword or shuriken. It was information. A ninja who could infiltrate an enemy castle and discover troop movements was worth more than 100 samurai warriors. The most famous ninja was Hattori Hanzo, born in 1542 in Iga province. Hanzo wasn't just a ninja, he was also a samurai, which perfectly illustrates how blurred these lines could become in reality. He served Tokugawa Ieyasu, who would eventually unify Japan and become shogun. Hanzo's greatest achievement came in 1582, when Ieyasu was trapped in enemy territory after the assassination of his ally, Oda Nobunaga. It was Hanzo who led him to safety through treacherous mountain passes, using his network of ninja spies and his intimate knowledge of secret routes. This escape across 200 miles of hostile territory in just 4 days became legendary. Hanzo went on to command Ieyasu's ninja forces, coordinating intelligence operations that would prove crucial in Ieyasu's eventual rise to power. When Ieyasu established the Tokugawa Shogunate in 1603, beginning an era of peace that would last 250 years, one of the gates to Edo Castle was named Hanzo Gate in his honor. That gate still stands in modern Tokyo. The differences between samurai and ninja extended to their weapons. The samurai katana is perhaps the most famous sword in history, forged through a process that could take months, involving folding steel thousands of times. The katana represented not just a weapon, but a philosophy. The blade was the samurai's honor made physical. To make a katana properly requires understanding the soul of the steel. We use different types of steel, hard for the edge, soft for the core. This gives the blade its famous curve and allows it to be both sharp and flexible. A true katana can cut through a rifle barrel and still hold its edge. The samurai's armor, called yoroi, was equally impressive. Made from lacquered leather and iron plates laced together, it could weigh up to 60 pounds but was designed to allow remarkable mobility. The distinctive helmet, or kabuto, featured elaborate decorations that identified the warrior's clan and rank. But armor this elaborate and expensive was exactly what ninja sought to circumvent. They developed weapons specifically designed to exploit armor's weak points or to be easily concealed. The shuriken, or throwing star, is famous but was actually a supplementary weapon. More important were tools like the kunai, a multi-purpose implement that could dig, pry open doors, or be used as a dagger. The kusarigama, a chain and sickle, could entangle an opponent's sword while attacking from range. The fukiya, a blowgun, could deliver poison darts silently. Ninja also pioneered the use of explosives in Japan. They created smoke bombs for escape, explosive devices for sabotage, and even early grenades packed with shrapnel. While samurai saw such weapons as dishonorable, ninja viewed them pragmatically. The mission mattered more than the method. One ninja weapon deserves special attention: the ninjato, or ninja sword. Contrary to popular belief, ninja swords weren't vastly different from regular katana. However, they were often of lower quality. Ninja weren't nobility and couldn't afford master-crafted blades. Their swords were straighter, easier to manufacture, and the scabbard was often longer than the blade, allowing the extra space to be used for hiding documents or small tools. What's fascinating is that while a samurai's sword was his soul, a ninja's sword was just a tool. They'd abandon it without hesitation if it meant survival. This fundamental difference in mindset defined everything about how these warriors operated. The conflict between ninja and samurai wasn't just about tactics or weapons. It was philosophical, reaching into the very nature of what it meant to be a warrior. The samurai embraced a concept called meiyo, honor. This wasn't just personal pride. It was the recognition of one's place in the social order, the obligation to one's lord, family, and ancestors. A samurai who acted dishonorably brought shame not just on himself, but on his entire lineage. This is why seppuku, ritual suicide, was so important to samurai culture. It was a way to restore honor after failure. The samurai would disembowel himself with a short blade, an agonizing process, demonstrating his courage even in death. Often, a trusted second would then behead him, ending his suffering. This obsession with honor created a rigid code of behavior. Samurai were expected to be truthful, courageous, and loyal unto death. They couldn't retreat from battle without orders. They couldn't attack from behind or use poison. These rules made samurai predictable, which ninja exploited ruthlessly. Ninja followed a different philosophy entirely. Their traditions drew from Shinto mountain religion, Buddhism, and Chinese military strategy. They studied Sun Tzu's The Art of War, which taught that all warfare is based on deception. Where samurai valued a glorious death, ninja valued survival and mission success. They had a saying, "The ninja's greatest victory is the one where the enemy never knows he was there." Invisibility, not glory, was their goal. This led to radically different approaches to conflict. A samurai would announce himself before battle, declaring his name, lineage, and achievements. It was expected etiquette. A ninja would simply kill you in your sleep and disappear. Ninja practiced what they called hensujutsu, the art of disguise and impersonation. This wasn't just about costumes. It was about becoming someone else entirely, studying their mannerisms, speech patterns, and behavior. A ninja might spend months establishing a false identity before executing their mission. They also mastered psychological warfare. Ninja would spread rumors, create fake evidence of supernatural activity, or stage elaborate deceptions to demoralize enemies. In one famous incident, a ninja clan supposedly used trained owls carrying torches to make an enemy believe their fortress was being attacked by fire demons. The ninja understood something fundamental. The mind is the real battlefield. If you can make an enemy doubt, fear, or distrust, you've already won. Samurai were trained to conquer fear through discipline. Ninja were trained to weaponize it. Throughout Japanese history, ninja and samurai clashed repeatedly. These weren't sporting contests. They were brutal, often one-sided affairs where cultural differences collided with lethal consequences. The most famous conflict was the Tensho Iga War of 1581. Oda Nobunaga, one of the great unifiers of Japan and a powerful daimyo with thousands of samurai, decided to eliminate the ninja clans of Iga province once and for all. The ninja had become too independent, too dangerous, assassinating his allies and disrupting his campaigns. Nobunaga's first invasion in 1579 was actually repelled. Imagine that a peasant province defeating samurai armies. But Nobunaga was not a man who accepted defeat. He returned in 1581 with overwhelming force. 40,000 to 60,000 troops against perhaps 4,000 ninja defenders. The Tensho Iga War was genocide. Nobunaga's forces systematically destroyed every village, every temple, every fortress in Iga province. They showed no mercy. Men, women, children, anyone associated with the ninja clans was hunted down. But even facing annihilation, the ninja demonstrated their unique capabilities. They used guerrilla tactics, striking at night, sabotaging supply lines, assassinating officers. They created false trails and ambushes. They fought from within the mountains, using their intimate knowledge of the terrain. One legendary account tells of a ninja named Ishikawa Goemon, who attempted to assassinate Nobunaga during the campaign by hiding in the ceiling of a building where Nobunaga was staying. He was caught and, according to legend, executed by being boiled alive in oil, along with his young son. Even facing this horrific death, Goemon supposedly held his son above the oil as long as possible, trying to save him. Whether that story is true or embellished, it illustrates something important. Ninja weren't the cold, emotionless assassins of fiction. They had families, communities, honor codes of their own. They just operated by different rules than samurai. Ultimately, Iga province fell. Thousands of ninja were killed, but many escaped, including Hattori Hanzo's relatives and followers. These survivors would become crucial assets to Tokugawa Ieyasu in his bid for national power. 20 years later, in 1600, came the Battle of Sekigahara, the decisive conflict that would determine Japan's future. Tokugawa Ieyasu faced a coalition of rival daimyo in what historians call the most important battle in Japanese history. While samurai clashed on the battlefield in a day of brutal fighting that left 30,000 dead, ninja operated in the shadows. Hattori Hanzo's intelligence network had spent months infiltrating enemy camps, bribing officials, spreading disinformation, and identifying which enemy commanders might be persuaded to switch sides. Sekigahara is remembered as a samurai battle, and it was, but it was won through ninja intelligence work. Several key enemy commanders switched sides during the battle because they'd been secretly negotiating with Ieyasu's agents for months. That's ninja work, deciding the outcome before the first sword is drawn. Ieyasu won at Sekigahara and established the Tokugawa Shogunate that would rule Japan for 265 years. In the peace that followed, both ninja and samurai faced an identity crisis. What use were warriors in a world without war? The Tokugawa period, beginning in 1603, brought unprecedented peace to Japan. The samurai class remained the ruling elite, but they became administrators, bureaucrats, and scholars rather than warriors. Many samurai never drew their swords in anger their entire lives. This led to a romanticization of the samurai code. Bushido became more formalized, more philosophical. Thinkers like Yamamoto Tsunetomo wrote Hagakure in the early 18th century, codifying samurai ethics into literature. The reality of samurai had been brutal pragmatism. The ideal of samurai became refined aestheticism. There's an irony here. The samurai became more samurai-like in peace than they ever were in war. When your survival doesn't depend on practical effectiveness, you can afford to be idealistic. Ninja faced a different fate. The Tokugawa Shogunate initially employed ninja extensively for intelligence and security work. Iga and Koga ninja guarded Edo Castle and served as the shogun's secret service. But as peace deepened and potential threats diminished, the ninja became less necessary. Their skills were still taught within families, but the golden age of ninjutsu was ending. By the late 18th century, most ninja had become farmers or merchants, their deadly arts practiced in secret or forgotten entirely. However, the legends grew. As the reality of ninja faded, the mythology expanded. Kabuki theater began featuring ninja as almost supernatural figures who could walk through walls, become invisible, or control the elements. These were entertaining fictions, but they overshadowed the real history. The greatest trick ninja ever pulled was convincing the world they were supernatural. In reality, they were highly trained specialists using practical, if unconventional, methods. But the mythology served a purpose. It made them seem more threatening, which was itself a kind of psychological warfare. In 1868, everything changed. The Meiji Restoration overthrew the Tokugawa Shogunate and began modernizing Japan according to Western models. The new government, seeking to create a conscript army rather than a warrior class, officially abolished the samurai in 1876. Many samurai resisted. The Satsuma Rebellion of 1877, led by Saigo Takamori, was the samurai's last stand, a desperate attempt to preserve their way of life against a modernizing government equipped with guns, artillery, and Western military tactics. Saigo, once one of the architects of the Meiji Restoration, found himself leading a doomed revolt. His samurai forces fought with traditional weapons and honor against modern rifles. The rebellion lasted 7 months and ended with Saigo's death in battle. He became known as the last true samurai. Saigo's rebellion was militarily hopeless from the start, but it wasn't really about winning. It was about dying with honor in a world that no longer had a place for samurai. In that sense, it was the ultimate expression of Bushido choosing a meaningful death over a meaningless life. The ninja had no such dramatic ending. They simply disappeared. As Japan modernized, the need for their particular skills evaporated. Some ninja families preserved their traditions privately, passing techniques from generation to generation in secret. But as a profession, as a way of life, ninjutsu ended with a whisper. In the 20th century, both samurai and ninja experienced a strange resurrection, not in reality, but in global popular culture. Akira Kurosawa's films like Seven Samurai and Yojimbo brought samurai stories to Western audiences. James Bond films featured ninja antagonists. Martial arts movies, anime, video games, and comic books spread increasingly fictionalized versions of both warrior types worldwide. What's fascinating is that modern portrayals often completely invert the reality. We see noble ninja fighting evil samurai, when historically, ninja were often seen as dishonorable. We see samurai as emotionless killing machines, when real samurai were complex individuals with rich inner lives. Popular culture has created a new mythology that has almost nothing to do with historical truth. If you made it this far, you're clearly a history lover like me. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss our next documentary. What lost civilization should we explore next? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.